One time for the homies in the back, one time for the fam in the front row. Don't do BP roll like 5 blunts, cause what the fuck is one blunt gon' do? We roll up, we toke up, yeah dog, I'm getting high. We spark up, we light up, yeah dog, I'm feeling fine. Set fire to the roof for the flowing, get high to the roof for the token.
Walking downtown and I'm okay. He's got it all figured out.
Canon T2I, one of the oldest cameras out there right now for Canon, but can we make the footage look cinematic? Hello, my name is Andrew Silla, and to be honest, I'm actually filming this because I'm actually curious about what we can make out of this T2I. Can we make this T2I look cinematic? Something like that B-roll footage that was just shown in the intro. Can I play with lighting, with framing, and with camera movement and much more to make this T2I look cinematic? And our subject will be the Canon C100 filming me right now. But just for some info, the Canon T2I was released in 2010, so around 10 years ago. Specs wise, this thing is not that great. It will only shoot 1080p up to 30 frames, so basically 24 frames and 30 frames is all I'm gonna be getting. The low light on this is not the best at all. So I will have to play with the lighting to get the right type of video that I want out of this. And there is basically no autofocus. I think there is, but it's a very base form factor of it. It's not usable. And there is no 60 frames, which is gonna make my life harder with this, whether I can make something cinematic out of it. I like to shoot most of my videos in slow motion, which is 60 frames or 120 frames. This has neither in 1080p, but it does have it at 720p. So whether I will use it or not depends on how I will film the video, because I don't know how this is gonna go. So basically I have my work cut out for me to make this thing as cinematic as possible. So let's do this.
Of your step, stripping me back. The fences are down now. Your coast is clear, ready to dive inside of this love thing. Itching around, I slide through the heartstrings landing. Infatuation, just like a ray of... Baby, you could keep me going.
Oh, and that was it. I think it turned out pretty damn well for a camera that is 10 years old. And you know, 10 years old, that technology is pretty outdated. To be honest, it was not easy to film with that camera. This B-roll took me about 3 hours to shoot, while the beginning B-roll of the T2I took 30 minutes to film, because I shot that on the 90D and I was more comfortable with the 90D because, you know, I've used that way longer. Alright, so now let's just break things down of how I filmed this with the T2I. At first, I didn't show it, but I was trying to use my gimbal to film with the T2I, but It became too hard to rack focus and have movement with that gimbal, so I decided to use my slider. So I just mounted the slider from the front and back, put it on both on tripods, leveled it to center on my subject, and that was it. So this allowed me to get some solid movement while I was able to rack focus in and out, sort of, because if you can tell, my focus was not on 100% of the time. Yeah, so some of those shots are a little out of focus or just out of focus in general. And honestly, that would have been probably fixed 70% if I had either focus peaking or autofocus. As for slow motion, I did shoot at 720p at 60 frames, but I knew while I was editing that if I upscaled the 720p to the 19 by 1080 dimensions, that it would lose a bunch of detail in the shot. So what I did is I left the 720p video on the 1920 by 1080 timeline while having an upscaled version of that video filling in the negative space. So basically, small video, big video, overlapping. Yeah, I couldn't find a better way to explain that. So small video, big video. And I didn't want to make the video look like it's just all the same shots. So I did some work with my lights revealing the subject and then quickly blacking out the light. And then switching again with different lights revealing the subjects at different angles. You get the point. So overall, it took about 3 hours to film that B-roll, and that was only about 30 seconds. So it was tough, but I did it. You might be wondering why. It's mainly because I kept on losing focus. Again, this is a 10-year-old camera, so cut me some slack. But all things considering, I honestly liked it. It was really good. So why did I do this? Number one, I was actually curious on how it would be to revisit the 10-year-old camera that I've had for, 10 years and revisit it with the skills that I have now. And then number two, I wanted to further prove my point that an expensive camera body isn't always what makes your videos good. And that is all. I hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully you liked what I created with this T2I. I still can't believe it. This is a 10-year-old camera and it was able to produce that type of content pretty well, so I'm surprised. So hopefully this, I don't know, inspires you to make some content with some of the camera equipment that you may have, old or new. So, start creating.
Gaze of your stare, stripping me back. The fences are down now, your coast is clear. Ready to dive inside of this love thing. Itching around, I slide through the heartstrings landing. Infatuation, just like a ray of light. You sweat away. My heart set into motion.